Not every president was a winner. Here's our ranking of the 6 worst presidents in American history. And yes, we're playing favorites. Number 6, Franklin Pierce. Pierce was a young, handsome, charming Democrat who swept into office in an 1852 landslide, and then governed like the wheels were on fire. His signature move was signing the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which blew the lid off the slavery question in the Western Territories and lit the fuse on a bloody guerrilla conflict history remembers as Bleeding Kansas. He also enforced the deeply hated Fugitive Slave Act and even backed a secret plan to snatch Cuba from Spain. By the end of a single term, Pierce was so unpopular that his own Democratic Party flat out refused to renominate him, the only elected president in history to get fired by his own side. He did manage the Gadsden Purchase, adding a slice of land to the Southwest, but that's a thin resume next to the chaos he helped unleash. When your own party won't take you back, that's a rough performance review. Number 5, Woodrow Wilson. Wilson gets remembered for leading America through World War I, but there's a much darker side to his record. During his very first year in office, Wilson authorized the widespread racial segregation of the entire federal workforce, rolling back decades of hard-won progress for Black Americans in government jobs. He cracked down hard on free speech during the war, jailing critics under the Espionage and Sedition Acts. And for years, he stood against giving women the right to vote. It's a legacy that Americans across the political spectrum still find genuinely troubling. Number 4, Andrew Johnson. Johnson inherited the presidency after Lincoln's assassination in 1865. A Southern Democrat suddenly handed the hardest job in the country at its most fragile moment. And he blew it, badly. With the Civil War just over, the nation desperately needed to rebuild and to protect 4 million newly freed people. Instead, Johnson fought Reconstruction tooth and nail, opposed civil rights and voting protections for freed slaves, and handed out pardons to former Confederate leaders like party favors. He feuded so bitterly with Congress that in 1868, he became the first president in American history to be impeached, surviving removal by a single vote in the Senate. Historians put him near the very bottom, and honestly, so do we. Quick time out from the political blooper reel, taking a quick pause to check out some patriotic pets on our Instagram, linked in the bio. Number 3, James Buchanan. Now, if you ask academic historians who the single worst president of all time was, most of them will point straight at Buchanan. And honestly, we get it. Buchanan, another Democrat, had one job that mattered more than anything else on earth: keep the country from tearing itself in half. He failed completely. Even before taking office, he meddled in the Supreme Court's notorious Dred Scott decision. He leaned on the court to deny citizenship to Black Americans, then backed admitting Kansas as a slave state under a constitution most of its own settlers rejected. And then, as one southern state after another announced it was walking out of the Union, Buchanan simply sat on his hands. He declared secession illegal, but insisted in the same breath that he had no power to actually stop it. So he did nothing, watched 7 states leave, and handed a full-blown national catastrophe to Abraham Lincoln on his way out the door. A Northerner with deep Southern sympathies, he even left the powder keg of Fort Sumter unresolved for his successor to inherit. The man had decades of experience and every tool to act, and he chose paralysis. By any fair reading, it's one of the greatest failures of leadership in American history. So why isn't he our number 1? Well, keep watching. Number 2, Jimmy Carter. By most accounts, Carter was a decent, honest, deeply well-meaning man. One of the finest ex-presidents the country has ever had. But his 4 years actually in office were another story. At home, Americans got hammered by what became known as stagflation, soaring inflation, punishing interest rates, and long, miserable lines snaking around the gas station during a crushing energy crisis. He went on national television and told a discouraged country it was suffering a crisis of confidence, a speech that only deepened the gloom. Economists even tracked something called the misery index, inflation plus unemployment. And under Carter, it climbed to some of the highest levels in modern memory. Abroad, it got worse. In 1979, revolutionaries in Iran stormed the American embassy and took 52 Americans hostage, holding them for a staggering 444 days. Carter's single attempt at a military rescue ended in a fiery disaster in the desert without ever reaching the captives. That failed mission, codenamed Operation Eagle Claw, cost the lives of 8 American servicemen. To top it off, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan on his watch, prompting Carter to pull the US out of the Moscow Olympics in protest. He lost his re-election in a historic landslide, and for a generation his presidency became shorthand for national weakness at exactly the wrong moment. And hey, if you're enjoying the countdown, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Because if you don't, I'm putting you in charge of the next energy crisis. And trust me, nobody wants that job. And number 1, our pick for the worst president in American history, Joe Biden. Now, like we said, the historians usually hand that crown to Buchanan. But on this channel, we're ranking by the damage you can still feel right now, today. And by that yardstick, our number 1 is Biden. Under his watch, inflation exploded to roughly 9% in 2022, the highest the country had seen in about 40 years, squeezing families every single time they hit the grocery store or the gas pump, as tangled supply chains left store shelves picked over and prices climbing. His withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 collapsed into chaos, capped by a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport that killed 13 American service members and roughly 170 Afghans. That Kabul bombing was claimed by an ISIS offshoot, and within days, the Taliban had swept back into full control of the country America had spent 20 years in. Back home, the southern border saw record-shattering numbers of crossings, year after year after year, and his approval numbers sank underwater for long stretches of his term. Now, his supporters will point to other things he got done, and that's a genuinely fair fight for the comment section. And every president inherits problems he didn't create. But when we weigh the everyday cost that families actually felt, at the pump, at the register, and around the world, that record lands him on our list at number 1. Before we wrap, one quick honorable mention: Lyndon Johnson. He passed some sweeping domestic programs, but he also dragged the country ever deeper into the Vietnam War, sending hundreds of thousands of troops into a conflict that claimed tens of thousands of American lives and turned so unpopular that he chose not to even run for a second full term. It was very nearly enough to land him on the main list. So there's our ranking. 6 presidents we think scraped the bottom of the barrel. And yeah, if you noticed, they've all got a certain something in common. Well, so did we. The way we see it, the office is only ever as strong as the person sitting in it. Now here's the fun part. We already know you're going to disagree with at least one of these. So tell us, who did we rank too high? Who did we rank too low? And who really belongs at number 1? And who we completely left off? Drop it down in the comments and let's argue about it. Respectfully, of course. Agree, disagree, fire back. That's what the comments are for. And if you had fun, do us a favor and smash that subscribe button for more American history with an attitude. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.